Thank you for inviting me to this webinar. I will focus my contribution on two subjects. One, the Danish resistance movement during World War II and the lessons we draw from it. And two, the fascist worm which is gnawing today worldwide. First, some words about the Danish resistance movement and its lessons. Denmark was under Nazi German occupation from April 1939 until May 4, 1945. The Danish governments up till and during the first years of the occupation pursued a policy of collaboration with the occupiers. Attempts to protest the occupation were harshly crushed. The Social Democratic Prime Minister issued a statement calling sabotage against the Nazis acts of treason. Unemployed workers risked being sent to Germany to work for the Nazi war machine with the complicity of parts of the trade union movement. In June 1941, when the German Operation Barbarossa against the Soviet Union began, the Communist Party was banned and declared unconstitutional. At that time, the party actually was represented in the parliament. Nevertheless, communists were arrested and imprisoned and sent to concentration camps in Germany and Poland. The policy of collaboration from the ruling classes seemed unbreakable. But in September 1943, the Freedom Council was formed by representatives of the main illegal organizations as a coordinating body for the resistance struggle during the occupation. Thus, 1943 became a turning point in the resistance movement as the hitherto sporadic acts of protests and sabotage now became coordinated. Popular uprisings and strikes became widespread. The Freedom Council was the closest Denmark came to an alternative government during the occupation in World War II. It was created upon the initiative of the Communist Party as an attempt to rally different popular classes and strata and different national political forces around the sole aim of ousting the occupiers. It was a concrete expression of the strategy for creating broad popular fronts and alliances laid out at the 7th Congress of the Communist International in Moscow in 1935. This strategy has been and is heavily debated. Some call it proven dead, that in the fight against fascism you call for broad popular anti-fascist fronts. From our experience, we must say, the successes of the Danish resistance movement against Nazism and German occupation is born out of the strategy for creating broad popular fronts and alliances. Had it not been for the unified Danish resistance movement, Denmark would not have been qualified as an ally after World War II. And in that movement, the communists played a leading unifying role. Unfortunately, the Danish working class and the communists did not succeed in harvesting the results of the resistance movement after the war and building a new alternative society. But that's another story which I will not look into today. This policy of alliances based on the working class and honest national political forces and not bourgeois government was in fact continued after the war in Denmark, namely in the struggle of the Danish people against the European Common Market, today the European Union. On the initiative of the Communist Party in 1971, the popular movement against this supranational imperialist bloc was formed. Due to this powerful movement, the ruling classes of our country have been forced to carry out 9 referenda on European Union matters. 3 of them were won by the people. Most importantly, the popular vote against the Maastricht Treaty in 1992 and against Denmark joining the euro in the year 2000. These are all results which are basically obtained through the policy of popular fronts and alliances with the communists at the core. It's all about how to gain strength and create mobilization. So we learned that to get rid of fascism, we must take the struggle in our own hands and create these broad alliances and not rely on bourgeois governments. The lessons can be different in other parts of the world, but I think this lesson is general for many of us who are struggling in the West. And it's really important today, where the fascist worm is gnawing in many countries. The anniversary of the victory 80 years ago was commemorated a few days ago, also in Denmark. The Danish elite, the government, the mainstream media, and the ruling classes excluded in the most tactless way the Russian representative to take part in the official celebration. In their opinion, fascism today lives and thrives in the East and not in the West. This Russophobia and Cold War anti-China attitudes seek to spread confusion about what fascism really was then and what it is today. Earlier, I emphasized the struggle for national sovereignty and democracy, and I did it with a purpose, because I think that this question, the national question, is among the factors that can pave the way for fascism today if the communist and progressive forces don't address it. Please bear in mind the words of the famous Bulgarian communist Georgy Dimitrov 90 years ago, where he exposed the class roots of fascism and the source of its influence on the masses. Among those were that, and I quote, "Fascism acts in the interests of the extreme imperialists, but it presents itself to the masses in the guise of champion of an ill-treated nation and appeals to outraged national sentiments." Quote ended. In general, we have to have a clear-cut understanding about fascism today. And I think that one thing we must bear in mind is that fascism is diverse. It adapts. Fascism adapts its demagogy to the national peculiarities of each country and even to the peculiarities of the various social strata in one and the same country. Therefore, I see the need of dealing with the concrete conditions in every country and at the same time not forget the common features of fascism. And I would like to mention 3 common features of fascism. It appeals to the most urgent needs and demands of the people. 2, it approaches to them with an anti-capitalist demagogy, taking advantage of the deep hatred of the working people against the plundering bourgeoisie, the banks, the monopolies, and financial magnates. And 3, it speculates with the profound disillusionment of the people in bourgeois democratic governments. So also today, where the fascist worm is growing almost everywhere, and undemocratic and even fascist movements and parties are emerging, and they're gaining influence. In some places, they're even in power or close to power, or are actively eroding the bourgeois democratic system from within. They exploit the decline of the labor and trade union movement. They exploit the growing resentment of political elites and the loss of trust in bourgeois democracy. Bourgeois democracy is in crisis and is becoming increasingly dysfunctional. The working class and people are deprived of virtually any real influence of the development of society. And the fascists also appeal to feelings of abandonment worthlessness, despair, and alienation, and they promote bizarre conspiracy theories. But above all, they promise revenge on a ruling class that has betrayed the working class and the nation. Ideologically, fascism today preaches dark enlightenment and struggles against what it calls cultural Marxism. Fascism targets the working class, but represents the most reactionary, most chauvinistic, and most imperialist elements of finance capital, and aims at establishing its open terrorist dictatorship. And I think we should not forget that. Thank you for listening.
I'm Michael Hudson. I'm appearing here for the International Manifesto Group. If you like this video and ones like it, please subscribe. For more information, go to the address on the screen.